So when you're trying to figure out how do I create the narrative, those are two questions you have to be able to answer. Why am I going for this? And then why should they choose me? And that should be apparent in your LinkedIn profile. It should be apparent on your resume. You don't want people to have to guess. Today, we're talking about the 3 mistakes to avoid during your career pivot journey. And I wanted to talk about this today because it is the middle of September, almost the end of September. And I created a post a couple of weeks ago, maybe it was last week, about how more people get jobs in September than any other month. And the big reason why is this is the big push for the end of the year, right? We only have a few more months. People start winding down in November and December. Not to say that people are not still getting jobs in November and December. They absolutely are, but just not in the bulk of the numbers. And for it to be the final push for the year for hiring, what I mean by that is that companies have their budgets, they have their the number of people that they're looking to bring onto the team. They have all of that budgeted through the end of the year, and now it's becoming a use it or lose it type of situation. If they don't fill these roles, their leadership might possibly come to them in January and say, I guess you really didn't need that position, or, can we rearrange some things? Can we put that off? Can we put it on the back burner? And so the hiring managers that really want people on their team, they're under the gun. They have to do it now. So I wanted to talk about the 3 things that you should avoid. The first mistake that you're making is not being clear on your target role. For example, if you look at the bio, the headline of your LinkedIn, what's right under your name, if you have 3 or 4 things listed there, 3 or 4 different types of roles, different industries, different interests, things that don't align to each other, people are confused. People are confused, and that means that it means 2 things. Either you're not clear on which one you really want to go for, or you're not confident enough to pick one and go with it. Get very clear on what your target is. You absolutely have to choose, because casting a wide net in your job search, it only creates more work for you. Because when you're looking for jobs that fall into 5 or 6 different categories, it just makes it harder for you. Now you have to have 5 or 6 different resume templates. You have to have 5 or 6 different storylines that you share. And it's just more work for you, when really you're only interested in 1 or 2 different things. So we're going to get clear on that. The second mistake that you're making during your career pivot journey is not creating your own narrative. Talk a lot about creating your career brand and being able to articulate your value. That is creating the narrative. An example of not creating the narrative is hoping that someone will just stumble upon your profile. They'll look through, they will read it to death, and they will be able to come up with some idea on their own about how this person is valuable and can I use their help. It's a huge mistake to hope people see you and see your value. An example of that is if you look at huge companies like Amazon and Apple. People see them, right? They have huge fan bases. They have a lot of brand authority. Everybody knows their names, but they never stop marketing. They never stop running commercials. Why? Because they want to create the narrative, right? They don't want you to have to figure it out on your own, because you may start to view them in a light that is not, what they desire. So when you desire for people to see you in a certain light, it is up to you to create that narrative. And so when you're creating your narrative, You really want to make sure you're talking about, why am I going for this role or this target? And then also, why should you choose me? So when you're trying to figure out how do I create the narrative, those are two questions you have to be able to answer. Why am I going for this? And then why should they choose me? And that should be apparent in your LinkedIn profile. It should be apparent on your resume. You don't want people to have to guess. The third mistake that you guys are making, and be sure to drop some comments in the chat. I know I'm blowing through this pretty quickly today, but if you have questions about anything that I'm saying, feel free to drop it in the chat. So the third mistake that you're making during your career pivot journey is that you're not being confident in your abilities. And I see this every day. What I want to be clear is that none of us know what we're doing. Absolutely none of us know what we're doing. And what separates people who seemingly are successful from people who are seemingly unsuccessful is that the successful people, they push through fear and they try things and they do things anyway. And they understand that I won't get anything done if I don't try. So not trying is the real form of being unsuccessful. So if you're trying and you're putting yourself out there, you're continuously learning. And before you know it, your skill level is just raising. The bar continues to raise. And then you look back a year later and you're like, wow, this is how far I've come. So you have to be confident in your abilities, that even if today you're not the expert in the role, the job that you're going for, you're not an expert in whatever skill you're trying to pick up, that you're going to continue to put yourself out there and you're going to continue to try so that you can see those gains in your actual skills and ability. But if you just sit on the sidelines and you think, I don't have it, I'm not good enough, and you're not going to take any action to actually get there, then things will not change for you. And I want to ask you guys to do a little bit of an exercise as to think about, what have I done in the past that has worked well? Anytime that you're not feeling confident, you're questioning your abilities, you're feeling like I'm not good enough, simply ask yourself, what have I done in the past that has worked out and has worked well for me? Because that is evidence that you are valuable, that you have skill set to add to someone. And so I think instead of, just sitting in, feeling a certain type of way, I want you guys to start asking yourself these questions to change the narrative so that you can launch into action. I created a free career pivot readiness assessment. So if you're unclear, you're like, am I making these mistakes? I'm trying to make this career pivot. I don't know where to start. I don't know where I'm doing. It's not going well. I created a free assessment for you guys to take, and you'll get your custom results about what's going on and what to do about it. And I will share the link with you. My name is Gerrie. I am a career coach. I help professionals and aspiring people who want to get into STEM or they're already in STEM. I help them pivot into new careers without extra degrees, without random certifications, and without applying for hundreds of jobs online.